Hey everyone, Connie here, and I just got back from seeing Nope, the newest film from Jordan Peele, starring Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer, with also Stephen Yeun and even uh, Keith David. My mind was blanking there for a second. So, as had been figured out, even with the first trailer that didn't show much, um, it was figured out pretty quickly by fans that Nope is a movie about aliens. It is a Jordan Peele movie, so there's definitely more than meets the eye with it, and a lot of themes and ideas spread around. So, I'm going to use this to talk about um, a lot of spoilers in this review. I'm going to be discussing a lot of important details from the movie, um, and how they fit in and what I kind of view the overall the overall themes and everything to be, and kind of go from there. But I will start off with a non-spoiler, just general thoughts on it, and let you know when we're about to head into territory. So if you haven't seen it, you can avoid the spoilers at that point. So, first off, non spoiler general thoughts. I liked this. I don't think it was Jordan Peele's best movie. I think that Get Out is still his best. But I would say this is better than Us. Us, I feel, had a little too much that it tried to do. It had way too many twists, and a lot of it just didn't end up working or making sense in the end. Um, but this one pulls things back quite a lot. It's a lot more straightforward than Jordan Peele's previous films, and while there are still themes and ideas there, it's not as heavy with the symbolism, at least on the surface. You could go into this movie and not realize there's a lot of symbolism there, while if you watched Us or Get Out, it's like, oh, it's blatantly obvious. It's trying to tell you something. This one feels more like a film that anyone can just get into without having to think about it. But if you do think about it, there is more that's not on the surface. I think all the actors did a great job. Daniel Kaluuya continues to shine in his roles in Jordan Peele's films. Keke Palmer was fantastic in this. Keith David's role was small, but he was Keith David, so you expect him to be good, even though he didn't have a huge role in this. Stephen Yeun was great. Everyone really pulled it off. The pacing was really well done as well. It never felt like it was going too slow. Never felt like it was speeding up too fast. It always felt like it was the right amount of time. Everything was happening in perfect rhythm, and I had no issues in that regard. The story itself, I think it handles it well. I think it's actually a really successful alien film. You don't see a lot of those these days. I feel like most of the alien films that are really successful and good are the ones that really delve into the horror element. Stuff like, well, Alien, or even Predator in that regard. But this one is a lot more subtle and a lot more, you know, a little more what you expect with a standard alien film, with the UFOs and all. But it's it does it all well. It feels like it's really well handled. Nothing feels too cheesy or corny. I think it was well done. Um, all in all, I think this was a really good film. If I had to give it a ranking, like out of 10 or something, I don't know, probably like an 8.5 or not, somewhere between an 8.5 and a 9. I'd say somewhere in that range. Uh, so, now that that's done, though, we are going to get into spoilers. So, everything from this point on will be spoilers. Everything will go into the specific details and twists of the film and everything, as well as what I feel to be the themes and ideas that Jordan Peele is trying to express with it. So, let's talk about it. Spoilers will begin in 3, 2, 1, now. So, this movie is about aliens, but not in the way that you think. See, you see this UFO in like the advertising and the later trailers and stuff. It's not a UFO. It's revealed like midway through the film, maybe a little over midway, that it's actually a single living organism. It's alien, it's extraterrestrial for sure, but it's not like a UFO. It's not a ship. It is an organism that hunts, thinks, feeds. It is a living being, and that changes everything from that point on. It changes the entire scope of the film as well as how the characters have to try and handle it. Once you learn that information, big stuff also begins happening, and really the biggest parts of the film, the big climax scenes and whatnot, start to happen. But the film actually starts out with something that I don't think was in any of the advertising, at least not that I can remember. It starts out with the backstory of Stephen Yeun's character. There's this sitcom from when he was a kid with a chimpanzee on it. And apparently, a chimpanzee, one of the chimpanzees who played Gordy, as the character is, ended up like getting triggered by a balloon popping and mauling most of the core cast of the sitcom, with only Stephen Yeun's character, Jupe, as a kid, being unharmed. We find out more about that later in the film, and how he connects to this monkey, to this chimpanzee, and how it's kind of led to this PTSD that has caused him to go in some negative directions, we'll put it. He's not like altogether a terrible person or like a bad guy, but he definitely handles things very wrong once he finds out about the UFO, which presumably he knew about a lot longer than most of the rest of the cast, from what we find out. It's not gone into too much detail, but he ends up like utilizing it as a show in a way. But we'll get to that. We cut to like 6 months in the past, where Keith David's character, who is the father to Daniel Kaluuya's main character of OJ, he ends up dying when a coin falls seemingly randomly from the sky, along with a bunch of other like random junk, and it like goes right into his eye and into his brain. He doesn't die instantly. It's a painful death that's drawn out as OJ tries to take him to the hospital, but he does pass away. It cuts to 6 months in the future. OJ's sister, played by Keke Palmer, her name is Emerald, or M for short, returns to the ranch that they would live on after having tried to make a go in Hollywood for a while. She and OJ kind of reconnect, and that's when shit begins happening. Horses start mysteriously vanishing. Shit goes down, so they end up getting this new security system installed from with this guy named Angel from a tech store to try and catch it on footage. And he ends up being into the kind of alien conspiracies and stuff, and ends up helping them and getting involved too. He's shown in the trailers, but plays a larger role than you kind of would expect. You expect him to kind of be more on the same level as Stephen Yeun's character. But he's a little bit more major of a character than that. He's also he's also, along with the siblings, one of the more likable characters in the film. He's a weirdo. He's maybe at a couple times he's a little dickish, but he's actually genuinely a good guy. And he actually connects really well and even kind of becomes friends with the siblings, with OJ and M. And so we see that that the siblings, during all of this, things have been kind of going poorly for the ranch, because OJ had been he had to resort to selling horses after a deal with a commercial went awry due to a horse being spooked and causing some trouble on the set. So he's been not making the best of it, we'll say. And we kind of see through that it kind of plays into his character, and he seems to have like this withdrawn attitude during the film, but does show moments where he does step out of that and gets like even really excited at points and whatnot. There's one scene where he and his sister, like, they realize she was right about a prediction she made, and they just start celebrating, and it's like almost out of nowhere, but it's so high energy compared to how he acts normally, and it somehow works. He's like really excited and really like intensely into the fact that they figured something out. So he's like slapping her hand and everything. Like, not really a high five because it's down there, but you know what I mean. Like they're kind of clapping hands and everything. Um, Also, that motion is like, I'm sorry, but yeah. Uh, so like I said, it's eventually figured out. OJ realizes that the ship is not moving like a ship, that it's moving and acting like an animal. And so he starts to think about that and think about it in a different way and think about, okay, so how can we work with this? He's used to training animals, specifically horses, but he knows how unpredictable animals can be and how dangerous they can be. Horses are definitely dangerous, which is predicated early on in the film during that commercial shoot where, again, the horse gets spooked and nearly hurts the actors on the set. So yeah, it makes sense, and he's trying to figure out like, okay, how are we gonna like tackle this? Not trying to tame it, which is what Stephen Yoon's character Jupe tries to do, but we're gonna try to take the reins basically, and eventually decide they have to take it out, of course. And it kind of turns like from more of an alien invasion movie to let's fight the alien movie, which is kind of fun. It gets really exciting and really fun. There's a big scene that you saw like in the trailers and stuff of like the show where the alien ship comes out and you see like everyone looking up at it. There's the woman with the scarred face, which by the way, it's revealed that she is one of the co-stars from the old sitcom that Jupe was on. She played his mother on the sitcom, and we had seen like through the flashbacks that the chimp, when it went on the rampage after getting triggered, it like was biting and clawing and beating at her face. It's like, so she was just a normal person who just had a scarred face due to a traumatic experience. She actually wasn't like anything out of the ordinary. Everybody had like thought like, oh, maybe she's an alien and stuff. No, just a normal person. But Jupe is holding this stage show, and he had known about the alien. He's trying to lure the alien back out to feed it horses and stuff, basically exploiting it for money. Which that's where you kind of start to realize the big themes of this film. And I'll get more into those in a bit. But the ship, the alien, comes out a lot earlier than expected and devours everyone there. Stephen Yoon's character, his family, everyone in the crowd, everyone. It pulls them up using its like suction of sorts. It like sucks them up from the ground, and you actually see them like moving throughout. It's like I guess you could call it an esophagus, and they die. They very much die. All those people, including some notable characters such as Stephen Yoon's character, all die. And it's like, oh, just a mass murder there. Okay. But after this happens, this story starts getting reported on, but it's reported that, oh, they went missing. No one knows what happened. And this gets a director who the siblings were going to work with originally to kind of reconsider some thoughts on what they had told him before when they first found out about the alien, and he decides to join them after all. So with them, Angel and the director, it's like they got this kind of core group now working together, trying to take this alien down while at the same time getting evidence, as they put it in the film, Oprah level evidence, something that would make it to that kind of level. And they have this entire sequence where they're trying to get evidence. A TMZ reporter on a motorcycle ends up coming by, which is like, oh, okay. But he ends up getting eaten by the alien. And they pull out this elaborate thing to get it taken care of. And Angel survives. He ends up getting pretty injured, but he does survive, luckily. And M ends up kind of luring the alien into this like theme park and all, which is where Jupe was doing the stage show and all. It's like this little Western themed small theme park kind of thing, like complete with like an old timey looking town and everything. It's like really small scale though. It's like a tourist trap kind of park. She ends up luring it there, where they let go of this, where she lets this giant balloon of like this mascot go, and uses this well camera thing, like again a little tourist thing, like you look into the well while someone else cranks it, and it takes a picture of you looking in the well. Well, she uses it like while the balloon is like right above the well. She's cranking and cranking it to try and get a picture of the alien as it devours the balloon. It eventually does, and the balloon, which is full of helium, explodes within the alien's esophagus, causing the alien itself to kind of explode. And in the end, our siblings and Angel survive, and yeah, they have killed and defeated the alien while also gaining proof of its existence, with the media coming into the park at the same time, so it's obvious they're going to get the word out there. This movie, again, it does what it needs to do. It's a very good movie. The horror is a little more subtle, and it handles itself in a very, really good way, in a really well-paced, well-written way that makes it feel not so much horror in terms of, like very intense, scary situations all the time, but more in terms of that creeping eeriness, in terms of the mystery of it all, trying to figure out, along with the characters, what's the deal with this alien and everything. And then there's the themes of it, which are clearly centered around exploitation and the overall just kind of glamorization of tragedy. We see at one point Stephen Yeun's character has almost this kind of little museum set up in his office of the sitcom he used to star in. The sitcom that ended after he saw his castmates mauled by a crazed chimpanzee. And yet he's making money off of it. He's being a capitalist, let's be honest. He's capitalistically making money off of a tragic event from the past that he still clearly has some PTSD from. This is kind of like how we tend to glamorize and exploit tragedy in the news, in media, how we make a big spectacle of it all. And I was looking up some thoughts on it afterwards, and yeah, kind of my thoughts on this were it seems like this is what the common consensus seems to be. When I got home, like I said, I looked it up, and yeah, I mean, even down to the same words that I was thinking on the car ride home. The exploitation and glamorization and everything. Everyone seems to be thinking, yeah, it's the same kind of thing. My sister initially was thinking, like, oh, something... My sister and our friend who went with us They were thinking more along the lines of like something about like Hollywood as the theme and messaging of it. Um, and you could probably take some stuff from there too, because Hollywood is a portion of the film, and like it's brought up that their ancestor was apparently the black horse rider in the very first motion picture ever made, which was just like a few seconds of this horse rider riding a horse. It was the very first motion picture ever created in reality too. And so there's the ideas of Hollywood brought in this too. So you could see some themes from there. But definitely the ideas of exploitation are in there, and just the over glamorization. There's also some biblical themes in this for sure, because the movie starts off with a Bible verse from Nahum. Um, and there's a point where the alien, it's like it kind of looks like a flying saucer during most of the time, but during the big climax it unfurls at one point and kind of takes this shape that I thought it looked cool, but I couldn't place why it looked familiar to me. I actually found out, I got home, looked things up, and I found out like, oh yeah, that's exactly what it is. People were saying like, it looks like a biblical angel. It looks like a standard depiction of a biblical angel. Not like the guys in the robes with the wings, but like a biblical angel with the like furls and the shape of it and all. And it's like, okay, that's what it's going for. And so there's definitely kind of that idea to it with how we like kind of view things from a perspective, a skewed perspective, especially when it comes to horrific or tragic events. How, again, going with the exploitation things, how we can make it look different than it actually is to kind of fit our ideals. And again, that comes through a very loud and clear with Jupe's character trying to make a show out of feeding this alien creature horses. And it eventually comes to bite him in the ass when him, his family, everyone there, including kids, by the way, are all sucked up into this alien and killed. It's different than Jordan Peele's previous films, which touched on topics of race and whatnot and identity. But it also, like, you can see ideas of exploitation in like Get Out and stuff, and so you can kind of see how this is still within his wheelhouse. It's very different than Get Out or Us, but it's still very much a Jordan Peele film. And I feel it handles it very well. Again, I think Get Out is still better. I think Get Out is still the overall better movie. But this film handles itself pretty damn well. And I would say that it's a lot more straightforward. There's no really big second surprise twist at the end or anything. It's like the only real big twist is that the alien spaceship was actually a living creature the entire time, a singular living creature. That's the only real big twist. It doesn't really go any further beyond that. And I actually like that because, again, Jordan Peele's previous films have done a lot more with the twists. The twists were a lot bigger of a factor. And when watching this, I was expecting there to be some last little stinger at the end to give us one last little twist. And there wasn't. And I kind of appreciate that. He stepped back a little and just gave us something that was a lot more simple, but still filled with ideas and themes and messages. And I like that. There are also some little Easter eggs in it. My favorite definitely had to be when Kiki Palmer's M did the Akira slide. If you've ever seen the anime movie Akira, or a lot of other things, you've seen it. It's like when someone slides sideways on the motorcycle. She does that in the film, and I almost burst out laughing when she did that. I did not know that was going to be in this. It really caught me off guard, and I almost laughed my ass off. I actually had to bite my tongue a little to keep from doing so. it's been parodied in everything. It's definitely a huge parody that a lot of shows, animations, video games have done. You can look it up on like Google and stuff. Just look up Akira slide. Akira is Akira. Look up Akira slide, and you'll find a lot of references for it and a lot of the parodies that other shows and stuff have done. Um, the anime Keep Your Hands Off Isokin did it, for example, with a bike instead of a motorcycle. But yeah, just seeing that in the movie, it was definitely the Akira slide too. It wasn't just a fancy coincidence. It was 100% the Akira slide. It was. There's no denying that. It was exact. um, but I would love to hear what you think. Have you seen Nope yet? And if you have, what did you think of it? What did you think of the different themes and ideas behind it? What did you think of the more subdued form of horror that it took on? And the kind of alien story that you don't see done a lot these days, or even well when you do see it? Um, the acting, the characters. Just let me know what you thought of the movie in general down below. If you have any questions, any thoughts, anything you want to mention or whatnot, feel free to put that down there as well. And in the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.